Welcome to today's explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to be diving into this with you today because honestly, we're looking at something totally monumental. We're going to explore the ultimate architectural blueprint for building a corruption-resistant, highly efficient auditing institution. If you want to know the absolute best strategies for auditing at the highest level of government, well, you need a flawless blueprint. So, let's unroll it. It all really kicks off with this massive, honestly almost overwhelming question. How do you actually audit an entire country's operations? Just think about the sheer scale of that for a second. In the past, this meant bloated bureaucracies, absolute mountains of physical paperwork, and clunky manual reviews that were always a few steps behind the actual spending. But today, we're looking at a completely different paradigm. We're going to explore the modern, hyper-efficient global standards that make national oversight not just possible, but incredibly precise. Okay, let's dive right into this blueprint. We're going to break it down into 5 logical steps. First, the blueprint for right-sizing. Then, modern national audit strategies. Next up, upgrading financial management systems, followed by governing the digital frontier. And finally, enforcing accountability and integrity. All right, starting off with Section 1, the blueprint for right-sizing, or basically building the foundation. Here's the harsh reality. You can't execute the best strategies for auditing if your institution is bloated or broken, right? Before auditing the whole country, you've got to audit yourself. The source material outlines a really clear path for this. You start with a mandate to function analysis, basically figuring out what it is you actually need to do. Then you assess your capacity. Do you have the tech and the talent to actually pull it off? From there, you restructure. You have to make those tough calls to merge or cut overlapping units. And finally, you apply digital right-sizing, which means replacing slow manual processes with modern digital systems to take the pressure off your staff. It's all glued together by hiring for modern, competency-based skills. And you know what? When you actually follow those steps, the transformation is incredible. The institution just drops all that dead weight. It becomes lean, efficient, digitally capable, perfectly aligned with its mandate, and fully accountable. It's like a perfectly tuned machine, completely ready for action. Moving right along to Section 2, Modern National Audit Strategies. This is the core engine. Think of this section as the beating heart of our blueprint. If we're talking about the best strategies for auditing, we absolutely have to look to global standard setters like Intosai and IFR. Now, the absolute non-negotiable starting point here: independence and legal protection. I mean, if auditors can be intimidated, the whole system just fails outright. From there, it's all about being smart. You use risk-based planning to target those high-fraud areas, leverage tech and AI to do the heavy lifting, execute value-for-money audits to actually protect taxpayers, and, this is huge, enforce strict follow-up mechanisms, because we definitely don't want these recommendations just gathering dust on a shelf. I really want to hammer home why that tech piece is so absolutely crucial. Think about a traditional manual audit. You've got mountains of paper, incredibly heavy staffing requirements, and just a constant risk of human error. It's completely obsolete. But compare that to a technology-enabled audit. Now we're talking about algorithms that can parse millions of transactions in literally milliseconds. You simply cannot execute modern national oversight manually anymore. The scale of a whole country practically demands automation. Okay, let's look at Section 3, upgrading financial management systems. If the audit strategy is the engine, this is the nervous system. So the IMF and World Bank mandate some pretty rigid accountability standards here. First up, adopting IPSAS. This creates a universal, totally transparent language for public finance. And when you combine that with a digital treasury and open budgets, you drastically cut off those dark, unrecorded avenues where corruption usually thrives. Add in some really strict procurement rules to uncover the actual real owners of government contractors, along with robust internal control frameworks like COSO, and you have heavily secured that financial nervous system. Next is Section 4, governing the digital frontier, essentially fortifying the tech. Now, having a shiny new digital nervous system means you also have a massive digital attack surface. According to the IMF, we absolutely must fortify this tech. You need an interoperable government architecture so systems can securely talk to each other without creating these isolated data silos. Plus, you've got to add in world-class cybersecurity, incredibly strict data governance, AI guardrails, and modernized cloud infrastructure. And I want to be clear, these aren't just IT buzzwords, they are the literal defensive walls required to even attempt a 21st century audit safely. Now, what's really interesting here is how you secure that perimeter. The source material highlights one specific, totally non-negotiable cybersecurity posture, and that's zero trust. Let's unpack that for a second. Zero trust requires strict identity verification for every single person and every single device trying to access resources. And that's regardless of whether they're sitting right there in the headquarters or logging in remotely from a coffee shop. The old days of, hey, you're in the building, so we trust you. Yeah, those are completely over. Zero trust assumes a breach is always possible, which makes it absolutely vital for protecting sensitive national data. And that brings us to Section 5, enforcing accountability and integrity. This is the armor. This final layer is the armor that protects the entire system we just built, and it's grounded in standards from the OECD and the UNDP. We're talking about whistleblower protection, conflict of interest controls, and independent anti-corruption bodies. Just think about it. You can have the absolute best AI-enabled, cloud-based audit strategies in the world, but if whistleblowers aren't legally protected when they spot fraud, or if there's no independent body that can actually enforce the rules, well, the entire blueprint just shatters. The technology really only works if human integrity is protected by law. And this brilliantly illustrates how the big picture finally comes together. Every single component we've discussed today, from right-sizing to digital financial management and cyber governance, it all maps directly to corresponding global standards from the OECD, the World Bank, Intosai, and the IMF. None of these operate in a vacuum. They all interlock perfectly to form one single, highly robust, and completely modern institutional blueprint. So we've theoretically built an incredible, right-sized, tech-enabled, highly secure institution based on the absolute best strategies for auditing. But as we fully embrace the cutting edge of these practices, I want to leave you with this highly provocative question. As AI increasingly automates the national audit, who oversees the algorithm? The technology brings incredible efficiency for sure, but it also brings brand new challenges for accountability. It's something we're all going to have to deeply consider as we push further into this digital frontier. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.